What led to the launch of the newly established Forum of Journalists for Transformation? Are black journalists still being discriminated against 21 years into democracy? And why does Pete Rampedi say the Right to Know campaign opposes black excellence? And is South African media transformed? What time is it? It is question time. Welcome to Question Time. My name is Mpho Tsedu. The newly launched Forum of Journalists for Transformation has taken a bold step through their quest to ensure that the country's newsrooms become epicentres of visible transformation. The forum was formed as a platform to defend the gains made towards achieving media freedom as promoted by the democratic dispensation ushered in 1994. They have committed to fight for the interests of working class journalists who are at the center or at the coalface of the media industry. This, they say, can only be achieved by providing legal and moral backup against unfair discrimination, victimisation and retrenchments by employers. A reminder that you can call us an area of use. The numbers to dial 089110 4210 089110 4210. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. My guest today is Pete Rampedi, who is the president of the Forum of Journalists for Transformation, FJT. Pete, welcome to the show, and thank you very much. We really appreciate the effort that you made to be here with us.
Thanks very much for inviting me and the forum, and we are really happy to be here.
When talk of the FJT began, I said to myself, okay, another FBJ.
Look, it's not necessarily another FBJ, but clearly we've got a lot in common with them. Ours is a struggle for genuine, systematic transformation of the media industry, mainly because we're concerned that 22 years into democracy, we still have racially skewed ownership patterns in favor of white people. We still have racially skewed narratives. Our newsrooms are still not representative. And we still have content, which is not necessarily diversified. We don't have diversity of perspectives in the newsrooms. And we feel that even though here and there, some white editors have been replaced with black editors, especially in the print media, it's more of an Irish coffee. The systems and the values are still the same, which is where our concern is. Because we're not necessarily concerned with who edits the paper, the skin color of the people who edit the papers. We're concerned about the content. The content we think is still anti-black, and we think, almost all these media houses are still telling stories from a Eurocentric point of view. And then they still take up the plight of the rich urban middle class at the expense of people who are in the rural areas. And we think that's unacceptable. We think we cannot have an industry which is still lily white 22 years into democracy. We think this industry must transform. It can't be indicating left and turning right. It can't be heading in the 20th century when everybody's heading into the 21st century. Okay. We don't want that.
Now, let's talk about media ownership. And that's very, very critical. And your employers, for instance, are they squeak clean?
Nobody's quick clean. That's why we're saying there won't be any holy cows. When we talk about, racially skewed ownership patterns, we're talking about the big four. And the big four would be your Times Media Group, my employers, independent newspapers, Caxton, and Media 24/Naspers. These media organizations together, they own more than 80% of the print media in South Africa. And we're saying that we can't have this kind of racially skewed ownership patterns 22 years into democracy. The law is there. The B Act said they had to sell 27% of their stakes to black investors by 2013. They didn't do that. Clearly, they're flouting the laws. And we're asking ourselves, why is the government allowing them to continue flouting the laws? why are they not, implementing or enacting laws and policies to force these people to comply with the law? Because clearly, if you don't do that, you are breaking the law. Why is the government continuously doing business with these people who are breaking the law? And why are they spending taxpayers' money propelling people who are clearly anti-black in their posture, people who don't want to transform? Why are they doing that?
How is Times Media anti-black?
Look, we're talking about them in general. And when we say people are anti-black, we're talking about the values and the content, the narratives. We're not talking about ownership patterns per se, and we're not necessarily talking about how many black people we have. We're not talking about how many black staffers we have. And we're not talking about how many black editors we have. It's an aspect of transformation. It's not transformation in itself. When we talk about transformation, we're talking about ownership, we're talking about content, we're talking about procurement, we're talking about shareholding in those companies. And we're also talking about staffing from an editorial point of view. But you cannot come and say to us, because I've got the majority of my editors are black, therefore I've transformed. That's cosmetic transformation.
Media 24?
Media 24, the culture there is still anti-black. In fact, Media 24 and ENCA are the epicentres of, racism in the media industry. Recently, there was an incident there where an editor of City Press, Ferial, was involved in some, racism scandal there. Black journalists complained that they were being racially abused. What did Media 24 do? Instead of using that incident, to come up with, positions which would encourage other, potential victims of racism to come forward and also come up with solutions to ensure that the same things don't happen again. What happened? They, basically constructively dismissed those employees. Almost all of them are no longer there. They victimized them, and then they had to leave. And what we're saying is that if you check how Media 24 in general are treating news, they're still racializing crime, they're racializing corruption. I'll give an example. Recently, we had the Oscar Pistorius story. Oscar Pistorius is a convicted criminal. He's a convicted murderer. And at the same time, there was a story involving Thandima Chubela, who is a convicted murderer. Media 24, they reported those stories differently. On the other side, on the one side, they said, husband killer Thandima Chubela will apply for bail tomorrow. There was another story where they said Paralympian Oscar Pistorius will apply for bail tomorrow. So the other one is a Paralympian, even though he's a convicted criminal. The other one is a convicted or husband killer. The other example, they keep on, saying or claiming or crying farm murders. If one person who happened to stay on a farm gets killed tomorrow, they say it's farm murder, especially if that person is white. And then if farm workers are killed there by farmers, they say it's crime. If my grandmother in Bulaweri Zanin gets killed tomorrow and she's black, will they call it village murder? We don't want those kinds of things. We're saying you cannot be racializing crime if you're Media 24. You cannot be racializing corruption. If you fight these two, you must just fight them entirely.
Independent?
Look, independent, they've contributed significantly to media transformation in terms of ownership patterns. You would know that in 2012-2013, the ownership of media, independent newspapers exchanged hands. A black person, Iqbal Survey, bought the company. We really commend them. And then we're also saying that since that purchase took place, that transaction took place, we have seen significant, progress in as far as content diversity of perspectives is concerned. But clearly, that alone is not transformation. It's an aspect of transformation. We commend them for taking action to ensure that ownership patterns, racially skewed ownership patterns are changed. But that's not the end of transformation. It's a step in the right direction. Okay.
SABC?
SABC, no, there are issues here. We can't talk about ownership patterns. It's a public-owned company. And then we're not talking about racism per se, but we're talking about content. We're concerned here because, when we talk about transformation, we're not talking about ownership issues only. We're also concerned about, content, because sometimes stories here are told in a very problematic way. And then we know for sure that there are incidences where here some politicians try to influence news gathering or editorial directions through remote control. And they keep on pressurizing our colleagues here to tell stories one way or the other. And they keep on trying to send SMSs to some of our colleagues. You know, it's so funny. They'll even send an SMS and say, we think you have been asking or grilling so and so, and this is not fair. So we are saying that that kind of thing, that narrative, it undermines the hard work that's happening here, and it also creates an impression that our hard-working colleagues here are not doing their jobs properly, when the problem is a culture of fear, which is problematic. Okay. You cannot be trying to shortchange people and trying to treat them as if they are less than professionals and making them the laughingstock of their colleagues, when in actual fact you've got hard-working journalists here. We're saying to these politicians, some of them are well-known, we're saying to some of people in government, they must leave the SABC alone. They must stop trying to pressurize people here to do things that are not expected of them as professionals. Okay. Allow them space to do their jobs properly. Allow them space to do their jobs without fear, favor, and prejudice. That's our problem here. But in terms of ownership, we're fine. Okay.
Stu, you are in KZN.
Yes.
Welcome.
Stu, you are... Yes, how are you?
We're well. Thanks for the call.
I'm fine, thanks. Actually, I'm going to have a few questions in terms of that space of the journalists, especially with the black people. Mm-hmm. You know, firstly, yes, we are the black people and we like to work with other the journalists. But in terms of the bursary, how can we go ahead to get the bursary in order to go ahead to learn with that to be a journalist? And secondly, all I need to ask, because actually most of the event or most of those people, maybe they are event, especially with the white people, but you see on that event, there is no black journalists there. I don't know if still to continue with the racism, or which means black journalists never get the authority to go on that event. And the last one I'm going to have is that in terms of, yes, we're having that news like Daily Sun, like I hope that paper, if you read through, it looks like there are white people are dealing with that paper. How can we absorb that one on that issue to say, let's mix with the journalists there in order to get the contents of that paper? Because if you read some papers, it looks like there are white people are working there, which means we are, yes, we are leading with especially the black people right now. We're having a black president, but if you go through to do the research, you find out black people that don't have the authority to go ahead to whatever you want.
Okay, Stu, thank you very much. I've taken your point. Thank you very much for that, Stu, in KZN. We've taken your point. We need to take a quick break. When we return, Pete will respond to that. The number to dial 089-110-4210.
As stories are broken around the world, SABC makes sure you do not miss out. As the stories unfold throughout the day, News at 8 updates all newsworthy stories worldwide. Globally, we are there. Locally, we leave no story untold. Make a date with News at 8 every Saturday and Sunday on SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guest today is Piet Rampedi, is the president of the Forum of Journalists for Transformation, FJT. Now, Piet, perhaps quickly, I think one of the points which Stu was making is that in some newspapers, indeed, a story is written from a particular perspective.
Look, before I respond specifically to his question, I'm just giving a bit of background or context. Currently, in the media industry, which is our problem,
yes,
you're dealing with a system of institutionalized culture of racism, discrimination, nepotism, cronyism, and other related problems. And this translates into a culture which then says, black people are inherently corrupt, unable to govern. They are foolish, they are backward, they are corrupt, and they are not innovative enough, and they are primitive in their thinking, and stuff like that. And that white people are inherently smart, they can govern, they are innovative, and they represent competence. And you see it in various forms. For example, you would have a black person doing business with government, and that person will be labeled a tenderpreneur. And then another white person does business with government, they're labeled entrepreneurs. It's the same thing. We're talking about problematic values. And what the caller just said now, you will have stories which appear to have been written in a particular way. It's because you're dealing with long-standing values that are there. You're dealing with structural problems. You're dealing with a framework which is there. It doesn't matter whether tomorrow you employ Mpotsedu to replace Piet van der Walt. It doesn't matter. As long as you don't deal with the structural issues, you don't deal with the values that are there, nothing will change. You still have people like this caller saying, "Oh, but I read this story. This story sounds like it was written by someone still sitting in Europe, and this story is about South Africa." It's the values that we need to deal with.
Ayanda, you are in Durban.
Hi, Paul. How are you, sir?
I'm well. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Paul. Look, man, one of the things that you guys are discussing there are very important. One can say that I just want to tell you, and the gentleman you with there, that media continues to play a significant role in this country, and the way stories are being told. One can say I'm very impressed with the way they tell stories, and it's a good thing that they do that. But we need to look at some issues and think about the importance of, like the gentleman said, the importance of transformation.
Okay.
In particular, and say we have to allow ourselves to believe that it is a process. It's not something that can be dealt with overnight.
Okay.
And we need to, form that relationship with different people from different sectors, and perhaps we can be able to have a prosperous society.
Thank you very much, Ayanda. Thank you very much for the call. Now, Pete, you say the Right to Know campaign opposes black excellence. What do you mean?
Look, we're saying the agenda is not transformative, it's anti-black. And then look, it's not the color of your skin, man.
Okay.
It's the agenda that you represent, which is what we've been saying. We don't want you to tell us that you represent black people in your posture. We want you to show us in terms of your agenda, in terms of your articulations, in terms of, promoting the issues that affect black people. I'll give you a couple of examples. The Right to Know have got a history of taking people to court. They've got a history of, toy-toying, in the big cities if they are seriously aggrieved with anything. I just gave you an example. We still have a narrative which is anti-black. We still have newsrooms that are still lily white, and you still have media owners who, instead of selling stakes to black investors by 2013 to comply with the law, they have not done that. And the question which I've asked them publicly is, why have they not taken any of these people to court? Why have they not taken the Big Four to court and say, you are not complying with the law, we're holding you before the courts? why have they not taken any of these editors to court and say, your content is one-sided. We think you are representing the plight of the rich urban middle class, and we think you are representing people who are in the big centers only. Why have they not done that? Okay. So we don't want them to tell us that they represent black people, or they are transformative in their agenda, or they represent progress. We want them to show us in terms of tangible evidence. We don't want lip service. We don't want slogans. We want tangible results.
Stelo Matoyo in Richards Bay.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Yes. Sir, I firstly want to thank the gentleman on the studio for the initiative that they've decided to take to form that organization. Mm-hmm. But I've got a simple question for him. Sorry. That organization, is it now, after 22 years, beginning to come up with those organizations because of the EFF that is on the block? Because when I'm trying to listen to him, when he's speaking or whatever he's saying, it sounds to me more of the radicalism of that EFF that I'm always hearing. And then the second question, Paul,
yes,
that one is directed to you now. Can that gentleman admit that? Then the second question to you, can you please help us organize anyone from a radio station like Ukozi FM to come on your show? We like your show because every time I'm listening to Ukozi FM, hey, there's something different from what is happening in South Africa. Thank you very much, Paul. Can the gentleman admit that the radicalism that is heavy is from the EFF that is on the block now? And I saw the clip, it's got Zinzikota from the ANC. Do they believe that the current government, will push their agenda?
Okay, that's
the one
fine.
that he's talking about. Thank you very much, sir.
Wow, Pete, given your history with Julius, I wonder if this has got anything to do with the EFF. But yeah, take it on.
Look, we articulating societal issues, and our agenda's got nothing to do with the EFF or any other political party. When we cry racism, it's a problem which is affecting the majority of black South Africans, if not all of them. So you cannot say, if we say there's racism in the media sector, when other sectors are also affected by racism, therefore we're articulating a party political agenda.
Okay.
We're just articulating issues that are affecting us, and we are saying that 22 years into democracy, we have given, we had until now given the industry and its editors time to self-correct, and we think they failed to self-correct, and it's now time for us to force them to do things the right way. We can't keep on hoping and sitting there and hoping that they'll do things the right way. It's time to show them that this is what needs to be done.
The last call, Dougie in the Val. I have to take this one, otherwise I'll be in trouble.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm well. Very quickly, please.
That's good. Listen, I agree with that caller that was just before me.
Okay.
I think this guy is an EFF character. And the other thing is, he's being racist towards the whites now.
Okay.
So I think we must get his name and what have you, and report him to the Human Rights Commission.
Well, his name is Pete Rampedi.
Yeah, because he's really now showing his true colors by downing the whites after they have done so much for the country.
Okay, Dougie, thank you very much. That's Dougie.
Look, we've heard that kind of propaganda, that when we talk race, you are racist. We're not going to be intimidated by callers like Dougie and other people. Look, we are not going to shy away from talking race, and we're not going to be intimidated by him and his supporters who want to silence us into compliance, because when we say there's racism in the media house, in the media organizations, then they will try to say, no, shut up, because we are going to label you racist. If we are racist by merely crying out loud and saying this industry needs to transform and that we don't want racists like him to intimidate us, then we're guilty as charged, we're fine. We can be called racist. Okay. We are not going to keep quiet. We'll never be intimidated. We're going to pursue this struggle at whatever cost.
Pete, thank you very much. But perhaps the last one, do you have any solidarity with perhaps journalists in Zimbabwe?
We do. Before we officially launched this forum, I addressed journalists in Botswana,
Okay.
We addressed the same issues. They had invited me to come and talk to them about these issues.
Okay.
I also addressed journalists in Limpopo, and then I'm in touch with journalists in Lesotho and Zimbabwe. A couple of them. We discuss issues of mutual interest. Wherever we need to collaborate, we will collaborate.
Bitrampedi, thank you very much, and wish you all the best.
Thanks for inviting us, and we really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the crew, have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.
Technology isn't all scary. There's also fun stuff like gaming.
Lots of women do play games, whether it's on their phones or their tablets.
Then there are Africans who are using new tools to make other people's lives much easier.
We typed the whole CV on a small, QWERTY Nokia phone.
For all these and other technology and social media news, join me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC News.
Health Talk looks into the increase of suicide and symptoms leading to suicide.
The death wish grows when you go into depression after a lot of stress.
And often when we talk about suicide, we don't talk about a person wanting to stop living, but rather wanting to stop living in pain.
After losing everything in life that lead you to no options but suicide.
I had that spirit of fear in me to say, don't even face tomorrow.
After being overwhelmed with stress and trauma, it becomes difficult to have self-control.
People learning tools and skills that will practically enable them to meet these challenges.
In trying times, never be alone. Reach out for help to a better solution.
Support should be done by a counsellor or psychologist where you're able to speak about how you're feeling in a safe, accepting, non-judgmental space.
For all your health tips, join Dr. Sello Mutawung every Saturday from 9 till 10.
Health Talk, your show on health practice.
The people being empowered with knowledge so that they can change their behavior and reduce their risk of being sick.
How serious is stress at work?
If we don't address workplace stress, that negative stress, then it can lead to burnout and it can lead to depression.
How does absentees affect companies?
The one that's really problematic for employers is the one that is unscheduled.
How can companies organize their wellness program?
Health promotion mustn't just be a one-size-fits-all type of approach. It must be customized based on understanding of the unique needs of that particular organization.
For health tips that will help you to adopt healthy living with Dr. Sello Mutawung on Health Talk every Saturday.
News at 1 touches the nerve of business locally and abroad. Find out how a move in the economy affects you daily. We bring to you all stock markets information across the globe daily. We deliver the latest news and sport news of the day. Make a date with lunchtime news at 1 daily.
It's 6 o'clock Central African Time. You're watching SABC News Prime Time, coming to you live from Johannesburg. I'm Vabakshini Chetty-Miller.
A very good evening to you. I'm Peter Ndoro. Thanks for joining us wherever you may be watching from across the continent. These are tonight's top stories.
As higher education institutions prepare for another academic year, protests over fees continue at some universities while registrations continue smoothly at others.
Delegates in Davos are tasked with showing the world that South Africa is a resilient nation despite all the challenges that it's facing.
Kevin Anderson bows out of the Australian Open through injury and Rafael Nadal beaten.
Calm has returned to most institutions of higher learning in the